Hey guys, welcome back to Heat Chat Sports. Today we're bringing you another NFL Weekly Analysis video, breaking down some of the key matchups from Week 5 of the NFL season, giving our takes, highlights, and what's coming up next for some of these teams. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and go check out our website, heatchecksports.com, for more awesome content. Subscribe there as well. Don't want to miss out. First up, let's get into it. Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus Chicago Bears. Bears are 4-1. Led by Nick Foles over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in another close victory coming in at the last minute or two of the game. The Bears squeaked by. That's how I believe all four of their wins have come so far this season. Barely beat Tampa Bay. I really don't think Chicago's how good they are. I think they're not as good as what the record says. And to some other teams where they may not be as good or as bad as what their record says about them. Next up for the Sunday 1 o'clock games, we have the Miami Dolphins playing the San Francisco 49ers. I am a Dolphins fan myself and am very surprised by the outcome of this game, that we won 43-17. In this game, what we did a little bit different from past couple weeks was we were able to score touchdowns. Last week in Seattle, we should have beat Seattle. We could not get the ball in the end zone. That is what has made us lose to the Bills, Patriots, and the Seahawks. We cannot get the ball in the end zone. And in this game, we got the ball in the end zone 4 times in this game. But really the key scorer of this game was Jason Sanders again. He's the number 1 overall kicker in the NFL season this year. He had another monster performance. Jason Sanders really is the leader for the Dolphins right now and is their team MVP. But the Dolphins really should not be relying on Sanders for the field goals, more so for those extra points. Carolina, Atlanta. Mike has filled in really well in the absence of Christian McCaffrey. Did another really good game. Bridgewater, Davis, and DJ Moore had huge games for Carolina. We predicted all 3 of those players would have breakout performances against the Atlanta Falcons in our articles for the Fantasy Start/Sit. If you go check those out, make sure you do. Help out with your fantasy lineups every single week of the NFL season. We predicted all 3 of those correctly. So make sure you go check that out. Next up, we have the Las Vegas Raiders over the Chiefs. Really good game for the Chargers. Josh Jacobs had a strong second-half performance. Didn't do so hot in the first half. Henry Ruggs, 2 receptions, 118 yards. Rookie showing a lot of promise. Hoping he could get more receptions coming up. He's really just getting the big yardage plays, not too much in the receptions front. I think the Chiefs' record, similar to the Bears, is another one where they're 4-1, but I don't think their record is as good as they truly are. I think the Chiefs are really like a 3-2 team this year. I think they're a little bit overhyped this season, but they're still a good team nonetheless, one of the best in the AFC and NFL, but I just don't have them in the top 3, really. Next up, we got the Cardinals over the Jets. Not a whole lot to say on this one. DeAndre Hopkins has been looking like an absolute beast with Kyler Murray. That connection is going super well. Houston really lost that trade and probably definitely influenced the factor in Bill O'Brien being let go. Next up, we got the Eagles-Steelers. Really, the story of this game was Chase Claypool. That's really all I got to say on that one. A lot of people are picking up Chase Claypool in their fantasy lineups. Recommend go get him while you can, and honestly, we would recommend using him as trade bait. A lot of people are going to want him right now. I don't know if he's going to keep with that performance. 1 monster game. We see that a lot from young players. They have 1 monster game and kind of fade away. I think there's going to be a little bit different where Claypool's going to have a little bit of a larger role, but Deontay Johnson was still not at full health. Juju hasn't been himself fully. And they were also playing the Eagles, who's one of the worst teams in the NFL. So I don't know if that really speaks to Claypool's true ability and the talent he has. Had a great game. One of the best games that's going to happen in the whole entire season for any player. But I wouldn't be buying in on him too soon. Get him while you can. Stash him, but don't make him a must start. Rams, Washington. Not a whole lot to say on this one. Same exact score as the Cardinals-Jets game. Don't have a lot to say. Rams kick the crap out of Washington. Ravens, Bengals. A little disappointed in the Bengals' performance on this one. I thought they were going to perform better. than their 27-3 beatdown, and they only got a field goal in the last quarter of the game, so didn't really do too hot. Joe Burrow had his worst performance of the season, throwing less than 200 yards. He didn't have as many pass attempts as he normally has. He normally is in that 50 range, is throwing up a lot of balls, and he only threw up 30. Had 183 yards. Lamar Jackson didn't throw many yards. Didn't have too many passes in this game either. Lamar Jackson has not looked himself this season and has been a little bit of a disappointment for a lot of fantasy owners who drafted him this year really high. Next up, we got the Jaguars Texans. Texans got their first one without Bill O'Brien under command. Deshaun Watson looked like his true self again. What we really know from Deshaun Watson, 359 yards, 3 touchdowns. Deshaun Watson's back. Texans are back. I expect them to come back and have a really big effect for the next few weeks, and that's what they really need. And hopefully with a little bit of an easier schedule, they can get that done. Really disappointed last week in Minnesota, but they got the job done against Jacksonville. Next up, Colts-Browns. Without Nick Chubb, they're showing they can win games. Browns did what they do, and they did a really good job against this one against Indianapolis, who is a good team. They don't necessarily have a great offense in Indy, but they got a really strong defense, probably one of the top 3 defenses in the entire NFL. But they're going up against a really heavy Browns rush attack without Nick Chubb, but they don't need him. They got Kareem Hunt, Dearness Johnson, and they also have 2 top-tier weapons in Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry on the receiving front. Browns are doing what everybody expected them to do last season, and they're winning the games this year. 4-1 start. Really strong performance by the Browns in a really strong division. Giants-Cowboys. Unfortunately, Dak Prescott, gruesome injury. Hopefully has a fast and speedy recovery, healthy. Wishing all the best for him. Cowboys barely squeaked this one out, though, against the Giants, who are 0-5 now. Little disappointing just overall for the Cowboys. 2-3 start, and their 2 wins have come against 2 0-5 teams, and barely winning those games and just getting absolutely clobbered in some other games. Cowboys don't really look as good as their 2-3 record says, and not that a 2-3 record is good by any means, but there really should be 0-5 this season, and that division is just absolutely atrocious. I think Andy Dalton's going to do a good job in replacing Dak Prescott. I think he is probably one of the best backup quarterbacks in the entire NFL. Do a good job, fill the role. Cowboys have a really strong receiving threat in Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, just overall strong performances. Giants, we finally got to see what Devontae Freeman can do, and he had his first really good game of the season. Next up, Seattle, Minnesota. Seattle barely won this one against Minnesota, 27-26. Another one, record not as good as they are. Seattle's 5-0 this year. Barely beat Minnesota. Barely beat the Miami Dolphins. Just not as strong of a team as we'd like to see. They're barely winning some of these games, and that's what a lot of people don't really realize. They just look at the record and automatically go, oh, great team. But just not really doing as strong as they could be performing, but their offense has looked absolutely incredible. Russell Wilson is playing at MVP caliber this season, and he has a really strong young receiver in DK Metcalf, who had another awesome performance. 6 receptions, 93 yards, and a pair of TDs against the Vikings' poor defense. Next up, we got the Chargers at Saints. Saints won this one. Justin Herbert's Monday Night Football debut. Justin Herbert looked good. Justin Herbert still is going to has a lot of promise for his future, but Saints and Drew Brees got this one done. Monday Night Football. Next up, we had a Tuesday game due to COVID scheduling issues. Is the Titans stayed undefeated against the Bills of the huge powerhouse of Derrick Henry, 57 yards and 2 touchdowns, and one of the stiff arms of the century against Josh Norman of the Bills. Titans they look good in this game, and the Bills are a good team too. Josh Allen looked good. The Titans just put on a clinic and had a really strong performance against the Bills, and they won 42-16. I expect Titans to continue that play and perform really well throughout this season. That's our recap on this week's games. Stay tuned for our predictions for next week's games. And go check out our website, uchecksports.com, for more awesome content.